Hello, truth seekers, and welcome back to our channel, where we expose the startling revelations behind the glittering facade of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I am back once more to share some more scorched earth hot takes destined to send the mainstream media Sussex squad army marks into a rabid frenzy. Today, I am going to be offering some blazing hot tea to the searing garbage fire that was Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's trip to Nigeria, which pretty much blew up in their faces. It all just something happens. But before we delve off the cliffs of absurdity here, if you haven't already, do me a crazy, smash the subscribe button and ring that bell. Because you're not going to want to miss the next tsunami of red-hot stories we have, I'm sure. Alright, so let me get this straight. Harry and Meghan were ready to embark on the most recent of several grand tours of Nigeria, that is, no doubt to gain the same level of adulation and idolatry to which they're oh so accustomed. But no, it's just par for the course for these four-horse people of the clash fatigue, that everything must go wrong. When the details of their failed trip finally came to the light, it turned out that this journey was apparently doomed from the start. From logistical nightmares to simple cultural differences that turned into a huge mess, that can be referred to as an extremely bad reality show. It is evident that the couple, who for the most part portray themselves as the champions of various humanity causes, were not ready for a country as diverse, mutable, and complicated as Nigeria. Secondly, everything they did to establish contact with people in the local communities and leadership was met with criticism. Their selfless actions were accompanied by motives and were only a way to get some more positive media voice, given that media was following them, making what they did more of a media event rather than an actual visit. Since then, people discuss and criticize the couple's actions, pointing to all the mistakes they made. The social media was overwhelmed with comments, memes, and everything in between, indicating that the public's opinion on Harry and Meghan has never been so split. At first, you have Meghan showing her inner diva. She decides to arrive in London one day in advance, making Harry mad waiting for her like a lost puppy. Really proving how much family means to you, Megs. Anyhow, the big show actually started when they went on the plane to Nigeria. So apparently the guy flying the 11-hour overnight flight took sick leave. I couldn't make this crap up. Apparently the universe wanted to put an end to this train wreck of a trip before it even got out of the station. So, here's Harry and Meghan, sitting in first class on this very nice Boeing 777, probably practicing their facetious royal waves, and were grounded. So, poor pilot said hell no to flying their high-maintenance entitled selves around the globe. Can you imagine being a working stiff, having to cater to these two spoiled brats every whim on that flight? Meghan would probably complain that the champagne wasn't on ice at the proper 53 degrees. I can see it now, her snapping her fingers and demanding of the cowering flight attendant, "Get me another glass, this one's too humid." Of course, when they eventually arrived, after the most important delay, Harry and Meghan had to be ushered off like they were bloody prime ministers or something. The fanfare and pomp that met them seemed more fit for reigning royalty rather than a couple trying to figure out their place in the world as global influencers. As their visit wore on, it became increasingly clear that the initial confusion was only a prologue to later pratfalls. Their engagements with local dignitaries and communities were awkward at best, if not overtly patronizing. Critics were quick to note that their efforts looked more like a series of photo opportunities rather than serious attempts at grappling with the problems at hand. Their presence was almost anything but a beacon of hope. It brought about a surprise feeling with a pinch of skepticism. It all seemed rather like a superficial tour for the benefit of the cameras, rather than one designed to make any real impact. The local media had a field day with headlines questioning the authenticity of their mission and whether they understood or cared about the challenges facing the region. Back home, the coverage was as evenly balanced. Some praised their intentions, and others incriminated them for performative activism. Social media was flooded with memes and debates in which both sides stood firm on the true nature of Harry and Meghan's endeavors. But in the end, a tour that was supposed to show their commitment to global issues boiled down to another chapter of controversy and spectacle. The trip to Nigeria complicated more their public image, which was already challenged. Don't want them mingling with the disgusting commoners, now do we? The whole farce just smacks of Meghan's disgusting want for grandeur and status. She is so green with envy at actual royals like William and Kate that she deluded herself into thinking that being a C-list celebrity entitled her to just as much importance. Newsflash, Meghan, you married a man whose greatest achievement was dressing up like a Nazi for a costume party. Your self-promotion tour of Nigeria would have been about as relevant as Pamela Anderson lecturing at Oxford. Do you think that Nigerians care for 1 second about getting a visit from the Duchess of Montecito? The only people who would have been fawning over you were the paid PR teams that you no doubt put together way ahead of time. Meghan is a washed-up, cable television actress. Stop trying to make her quirky, feminist, sloganeering happen. It's not gonna happen. The sooner she and Harry retreat back to the oblivion they deserve, the better. This entire fiasco just accentuates what delusional, hyper-privileged flakes Harry and Meghan actually are. Just what are they going to Nigeria for, anyway? To preach about equity and racism or whatever Meghan's latest trite talking point is? No, to stroke egos that have been running on empty ever since they stepped down from the pedestal of absolute power. Let's face it, they've done nothing to merit the self-appointed activist pedestals except be an aristocratic leech and his D-list actress wife. As the visit continued, the gap between their self-perception and the actual reality only grew. Their grandstanding on social issues felt empty at best, given the level of luxury and insulation they lived in. Their messages on equality could hardly be taken seriously when delivered from such a platform of privilege. The public reaction, of course, was rather polarized. Their supporters all praised their bravery in speaking out, while detractors could see through the thin veneer of their activism. And really, there was too much irony in the fact that two such privileged people should now be on the lecture circuit, complaining about issues like poverty and racism. Social media, of course, was alive with comment, many noting the absurdity of the situation. What is even more instructive was the reaction in Nigeria, where many were only curious about their visit or found it a sign of indifference or pure skepticism. That a country's many problems would even remotely be affected by a short visit by Harry and Meghan was, quite frankly, preposterous. To most of them, their presence seemed more like an intrusion than a meaningful contribution. The trip, of course, was meant to raise their public profile as global do-gooders and only further illustrated just how out of touch they were with the very causes they purported to promote. Far from bridge building, their actions further entrenched the perception of them as out-of-touch celebrities chasing headlines rather than genuine change. As the saga plays out, it becomes increasingly clear that Harry and Meghan's efforts at reinvention are foundering. His and her attempts to carve out a new place on the world stage have been poisoned by missteps and inauthenticity. For most, their trip to Nigeria is just one more example of their misguided approach to activism, more about personal branding than any real desire to make a difference. I am sure the Nigerians can hardly wait to be lectured about oppression from a couple of millionaires who have not had a real job since the 1990s. Harry and Meghan are so painfully lacking in self-awareness it is difficult to watch. If they spent one fraction of the time doing honest self-reflection, this tour would never have been planned to begin with. Of course, accountability and humility are four-letter words to these two narcissists. Even as the world was blinking its lights on the question of whether their Nigerian vanity tour was such a good idea, they just kept trying, haplessly. At least the pilot had the guts to take himself out of the line of fire. I am sure all the working folks at British Airways Aviation secretly cheered that they did not